Hello friends, this is Satvinder Bhatia from Sukhmani Immigration Services, Brampton, Canada. I'm a regulated and licensed Canadian immigration consultant. Today, I'll be sharing with you 3 PNP draw results and a very important news. So, before that, a small request, if you have still not subscribed to the channel and you are new, please consider subscribing. We talk a lot about Canadian immigration news, update, tips and tricks on this channel. If you like the video, please share it with your family and friends and please press the bell icon so that this video comes to you immediately when we upload. So without further delay, let's get started on today's important video, which is about 3 PNP draws which happened recently by 3 provinces. But before I go on to these draws, let me share with you a very important news. That news is about Ontario. So OINP, Ontario Immigrant Nominee Program, the Ontario's PNP program, announced that it will double its quota. So quota will be doubled by 2025. Ontario is always the engine of immigration. It calls maximum number of people as an immigrant in Canada, and it scores over all other provinces. Now even the quota is increased, it is doubled. Now let's look at the quota, and they are planning to do it by 2025. So now let's look at the quota of OINP year by year. So in 2022, the year which has gone by, and in that Ontario has called 9,750 people, and in this year Ontario is planning to call 16,500 people. So that's a big number, a big chunk of people will be invited by Ontario. So out of this 9,750, which is last year, I will show you a very important data. So if you look at this data, you will find that each category, how many people were called. So you see here the maximum number of people were called under Ontario skilled trade. Remember the category, Ontario skilled trade. So remember this category takes almost 1/3 share out of 9,750, 3,196, more than the 1/3 share goes into this category. So now let's look at the draw, and I am again starting with Ontario because I live in Ontario. So Ontario PNP categories, let me try to explain you the categories before I actually move on to the draw. So Ontario categories, PNP categories are broadly divided into 3. The first category is express entry linked, the second one is expression of interest, and the third one is entrepreneur stream. So we are going to talk about express entry linked. So when we say express entry linked, it means that you need to have, must have a profile in express entry, federal express entry. So under the express entry linked, there are further 3 categories. The first one is human capital stream, the second one is Ontario skilled trade, and the third one is French speaking skilled worker. So human capital stream has another category which is very famous, which is called tech draw. But today we are going to talk about the one which gets maximum number of immigrants, and that category is Ontario skilled trade. So Ontario skilled trade is the one and only category where maximum number of people come to Ontario and settle as an immigrant. So under this, the most important thing which I want to share with you, not only the number of people are maximum in this, but the CRS score is very low also. But unfortunately, due to people not being aware or lack of planning, they do not get through this. So this is a very important category, and you should have a profile in express entry. Then you can get notification of interest. So now let's look at the actual draw. The draw held on 23rd March, and here is the information from the government website. So now let's look at the same information in the highlight form so it is easy to understand. So draw happened on 23rd March, which is 2 days before, and total 746 candidates were invited. So not just the number of people invited are important, but the CRS score is also very important. Just look at the CRS score. The CRS score was only 250, the cutoff. So if you have 251 score and you have a profile in Ontario, skilled trade, you got your PR. So even if the federal score was 490, still you can get the PR at 251 also. So the profile created were between the March 23rd, 2022 and 2023. So this is about the Ontario PNP. Now let's move on to another province, and that province is Manitoba. So Manitoba conducted 6th PNP draw of 2023. So Manitoba, as I previously also mentioned, Manitoba also started the occupation specific draws, and occupation specific draws are where they target particular occupation. So earlier Manitoba used to only do the category draws, but now they have also started occupation specific draws. So under the occupation specific draw, this draw number is actually 173. Manitoba has also broken its draw into two parts. The one part is now occupation specific category. The part 2 of the draw will be the other categories like skilled worker and skilled worker Manitoba, skilled worker overseas. But let me tell you about the occupation specific first, and then I'll move on to the other one. So occupation specific, let's see which occupations are targeted. So occupation targeted are 72, 74, 75. So the 72 is of course which relates to the transportation officers or controllers, and 74 is mail distribution. Then we have 94 which are helpers, machine operators, and 95 is your laborers. So these are the categories Manitoba PNP draw. Now let's move on to the general draw the Manitoba which conducted, which is again in international education stream, skilled worker overseas and skilled worker Manitoba. So here is the information from the government website. Now let's look at the analysis. So this draw conducted by Manitoba, and first of all under the skilled worker in Manitoba occupation specific category, maximum number of people were called 266, and their score was also very less, 612. This is not CRS score, this is Manitoba's matrix. So letter of advice is issued, and the second category is 200 people were called under skilled workers in Manitoba. The score was 672. 48 people were called from overseas. So when skilled workers are called overseas, their score is usually high. So here the score was also high, 708. International education stream, 52 people were called. Total 566 people were called in this draw. Out of 566, 82 people were those who had profile in express entry. So I always say, if it is possible, if you qualify, please make profile in express entry. Now moving on to the snapshot. So snapshot means what happened till now in this year in Manitoba draw. So here is the information, total 6 draws. Every month 2 draw happen. January 2 draw, February 2 draw, March 2 draws. And one draw they usually do it in the starting and one the end of the month. So total 2,712 people were called. Now with that, moving on from Manitoba going to BC. So BC third PNP draw was done in the month of March. Now let me tell you here very important thing. Every week British Columbia does the draw every week. Every Tuesday British Columbia conducts the draw. So this is the third draw because this is the third Tuesday which gone by. So now let's move on to the actual draw information. So here is the draw information from the government website. So draw happened March 21st, which is Tuesday, although it got posted 2-3 days later. So how many people were called? 200 people were called in this. And again, there is another part of it, because BC conducts a draw in two parts, part 1 and part 2. Part 1 is your general draw and part 2 is your targeted one. So here is the targeted one. Now let's look at all this information in a highlight form for easy understanding. So 255 people were called. Out of that, 200 were called in the general draw, and targeted draw 55 people were called. And BC always calls early childhood educators. 34 people were called under the early childhood educators. Healthcare workers, 17 people were called, and animal health technologists and veterinary doctors, 4 people were called. So this is the information about the third draw which happened in the month of March for BC. Now let's look at the snapshot. So snapshot, January month total 1107 people were invited, February 895, March month is going on. There is one more Tuesday pending. So total till now is 2765 people were invited. By BC, 2765. So as I always say, every case is different, every profile is different, goal of every person is different. If you need to discuss your own case with us, you can book an appointment. Our office is located in Brampton. Email ID, address, phone number, everything is shared right here with you. Very important thing. If you have still not subscribed to the channel, please consider subscribing, and thank you very much for watching the video. Thanks.